Okay, so let's unpack this. I mean, imagine the current job market, like a room, right? And the ceiling is suddenly dropping and the floor is rising. You're just stuck in the middle.
Oh man, that is a perfectly terrifying analogy.
Right. Like, do you duck? Do you jump? Or do you, I don't know, find a door? Because if you are sitting at your desk right now, routing emails or updating spreadsheets, managing software projects, you are probably feeling some version of that pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. People definitely feel it.
You're sensing this fundamental shift in the way we work. And look, you're not crazy for feeling that way. We recently got our hands on some internal program and press materials from a group called EON AI Ventures.
Which are super interesting, by the way.
So interesting because these documents, they don't just, talk about some vague future. They outline a really specific documented compression event that hit the white-collar economy back in April of 2026. So today, our mission is to dive into what they're seeing, look at the exact roadmap out of this trap that they're selling, and figure out what it all means for you.
Yeah, and your room analogy is incredibly apt here. Because what we're looking at in these EON documents, it's not a theoretical future anymore.
Right, not just tech forecasting.
Exactly. For years, we've dealt with like 10-year forecasts and academic models. But the stakes right now are immediate. The documents describe what they call the white-collar squeeze. And they argue, quite forcefully, that it's now an operational reality.
The walls are actually closing in.
Yeah, the walls really are closing in on the traditional middle-class knowledge worker.
Okay, so if I'm listening to this and I've been hearing tech gurus yell, AI is taking over basically since 2023. What makes this specific moment the undeniable turning point? Like, according to the EON materials, they point specifically to April 2026. What exactly happened then to make this trap snap shut?
Well, the materials point to the convergence of two really specific news stories, and they were published in the exact same week, actually.
Oh, same week. Same week. This is basically the bedrock of their entire argument. So, from above, right, the ceiling dropping, they cite an article from The Verge confirming that OpenAI officially shipped autonomous workspace agents.
Okay, wait, I want to stop you right there. Because autonomous workspace agents, that just sounds like classic tech jargon.
Yeah. Yeah.
What does that actually mean for the person whose job is sitting at a computer all day?
Oh, it's a huge deal. It means there is no human in the loop anymore. Like, think back to 2023. You used a chatbot, right?
Yeah, sure.
You typed in a prompt, it gave you a draft of an email, and then you, the human, copied it, pasted it, maybe you edited it a bit, and clicked send. You are basically the manager of the AI.
Right, I'm the one pushing the button.
Exactly. But the EON materials explicitly state that this save the prompt era is completely over. Those older models are fully deprecated now. Today, an autonomous agent can, it can look at a customer complaint, cross-reference your company's inventory database, draft the email, issue the refund in your payment software, and send the reply, entirely on its own. Wow, so it's executing workflows, not just assisting with them.
Yes, precisely.
Okay, so the ceiling is dropping because software doesn't need me to push the buttons anymore. It's basically pushing its own buttons.
Yeah, that's the ceiling. And then from below, you have the floor rising. So in that very same week, in April 2026, Fortune magazine published a piece documenting that specialized data center electricians are now earning salaries in the $300,000 per year band.
Wait, hold on a minute. $300,000?
Yep.
For an electrician pulling cables? That is insane.
I know, it sounds crazy, but it's highly specialized work. They're doing liquid cooling installations and fiber cabling.
Okay, let's do a quick explainer on that because, why does an electrician need to know about liquid cooling?
Well, because the computing power required to run all these new autonomous agents, it generates massive amounts of heat. These new data centers are essentially literal ovens.
Jeez.
Yeah, so standard air conditioning just doesn't work anymore. They need complex liquid plumbing to keep the servers from melting. So this is creating a massive demand for people who understand, both high-tech data infrastructure and heavy-duty physical plumbing and electrical work.
And what's driving all that demand? Like, who's paying for this?
The underlying mechanism driving this is a $700 billion U.S. data center build-out. $700 billion. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is projecting 81,000 of these specific openings every single year, straight through 2034.
That is just an insane amount of money and opportunity.
It really is. Yet, according to the Fortune piece that EON highlights, laid-off tech workers are completely ignoring this opportunity.
Really? Even if they're out of a job?
Yeah. Even though industry insiders are explicitly calling it a white-collar trade job, The traditional laptop class just, well, they don't want to put on a hard hat.
So you have tech workers stubbornly clinging to a shrinking middle. I'm assuming the morale there isn't exactly great.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, EON cites a Flex Jobs report showing that 62% of white-collar workers already want out of their current careers. The psychological shift has already happened.
62%. That's wild.
Yeah, and on top of that, they reference Andreessen Horowitz pointing out that the defensive moat for software companies has collapsed down to just 5 weeks.
Okay, wait. A 5-week software moat. Break that down for the listener, because what does a defensive moat actually look like for a software company in real life?
Sure. So historically, if you built a unique piece of software, say like a really clever app for managing restaurant schedules, it would take competitors maybe a year or two to hire engineers, write the code, copy your features. That time was your moat. You were safe.
Right, you had a head start.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But because these autonomous agents can now write and deploy code instantly, a competitor can just reverse engineer and launch a copy of your product in 5 weeks. So agents are now just a feature, they aren't an entire company anymore.
But, okay, I have to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
We've been hearing about AI taking jobs for years. We've heard all the buzzwords. Why is the publication of 2 articles in one single week the definitive proof that the squeeze is suddenly an operational reality? Like, why shouldn't the listener just brush this off as, more tech forecasting?
Well, what's fascinating here is the transition from academic modeling to observable, bankable proof. I mean, for the last couple of years, this was all theoretical. Stanford was modeling the economic impact. McKinsey was running surveys. KPMG even coined the term FOBO.
Hobo.
Yeah, the fear of being obsolete.
Oh, wow, of course they did.
Right. But what EON is pointing out is that April 2026 is the exact moment it shifted from surveys to balance sheets. The automation is actively executing workflows in the real world right now, and the data centers are actively paying $300,000 to physical workers. The transition is complete. The trap has snapped shut.
Okay, so the middle is dead and the trap is shut. Honestly, if I'm listening to this right now, I am probably panicking. So what is EON's actual life raft here? What are they selling?
All right, so their exit strategy is a program they call the AI Founder Program. And they claim it offers 3 documented exits out of this exact squeeze.
Okay.
It's a 90-day self-paced sprint. There was absolutely no admission gate, no prerequisite credentials, no waiting list. I mean, anyone can just go to owow.ai founder and start.
Let's talk about the price, though, because I found their framing of this super fascinating. It is a $975 one-time fee, or you can opt for a subscription model at $99 a month for a 12-month term.
Right.
But in their marketing materials, EON explicitly frames this $975 as the equivalent of 2 weeks of cafeteria food. Now, look, I don't know what kind of cafeteria EON executives are eating at, but for a laid-off worker currently panicking about their mortgage, $1,000 is a very steep lunch bill. Is this pricing actually disruptive, or is that just incredibly out-of-touch marketing?
I mean, it's definitely provocative marketing, no question.
Yeah.
But if we connect this to the broader landscape of tech education, true optionality usually costs an absolute premium. EON is positioning itself structurally as a bundle.
How so?
Well, right now, the market is full of what they call single-door slices. So, if you want to learn to code, you take a $15,000 boot camp. If you want corporate strategy, you go to a $5,000 gated executive academy. EON is taking all these distinct pathways and bundling them into one sub-$1,000 package.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so compared to a traditional university degree or a high-end boot camp, the pricing actually is structurally disruptive.
And the way they structure that optionality within the 90 days is actually quite clever. They have this day 45 differentiator.
Yes, that part is huge.
Because the program is 90 days long, but you don't actually have to choose which of the 3 paths you're taking until day 45.
Exactly, and that is a critical psychological mechanism. Think about traditional education. You are often forced to choose your major or your career track completely blindly, right? Before you even know what the day-to-day work actually looks like.
Yeah, you're 18 and you just pick biology and hope for the best.
Right, and then it becomes a massive sunk cost fallacy. But by letting participants sample all 3 doors from the inside for the first 45 days, EON is completely de-risking the decision process. You actually get to play with the tools before you commit your life to them.
Plus, they back it up with a platform-enforced money-back guarantee, though I noticed it has 4 very specific conditions.
They do not make it a free ride.
Right, so you have to complete their baseline AI fluency curriculum, you must attend the mentor sessions, you have to submit what they call a venture builder spec by day 45, and ultimately, you must ship a live product URL by day 90.
And notice how all 4 of those conditions require active deployment. It's not just a passive video library where you hit play and fall asleep on the couch.
Yeah, we can't just zone out.
Exactly. If you don't do the work and physically ship a product to the internet, you don't get the guarantee. It forces the participant into actual action.
Okay, so let's actually open up these doors. Door 1 is for someone willing to get their hands dirty in the physical world. They call this skills, and this is directly targeting that $300,000 specialized electrician band we talked about earlier.
Yes, the data center jobs.
Right. So the materials say they use something called the Global Virtual Campus, which has like 9,000 courses, paired with Genesis 2 and 3 simulation labs to get a verifiable credential called EAFI. But hold on, you're telling me I can learn to handle high voltage electrical cables and complex liquid plumbing on my laptop?
Well, not exactly on a flat screen.
Because, I mean, how is that not a massive safety hazard?
Yeah, that's where the technology bridges the gap.
Yeah.
EON utilizes XR, or extended reality. You aren't just watching a 2D video on a laptop, you are actually putting on a headset and stepping into a fully immersive one-to-one spatial simulation of a data center.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the underlying logic here is that you simply cannot train a physical trade entirely through text. You need spatial reasoning, you need procedural muscle memory.
So I can practice wiring a high voltage server rack in a virtual environment where if I mess up, I don't electrocute myself or, blow up $1 million server.
Exactly. They are giving white-collar workers a completely safe environment to learn a blue-collar high-tech trade. And it culminates in that EAFI credential, which stands for Enterprise AI and Frontier Infrastructure.
Got it. EAFI.
Right, and it's designed to be a verifiable proof of competence for employers.
Okay, that makes sense for the physical infrastructure side. But what if you are a white-collar worker who, I don't know, really wants to stay in the air-conditioned corporate world? How do you survive there?
That brings us to door number 2, which is the operator, or what they call the AI integrator.
AI integrator.
Yeah, this is for the person who wants to stay inside a traditional company but make themselves totally indispensable.
And how exactly do they do that? I mean, what are the tools?
The tools provided here are SolveIQ to find high-leverage internal problems, VibeFlow to build the solution, and then access to 250 cloud agents to actually deploy it. EON claims this makes the employee untouchable because of the massive gap right now between purchasing and implementing.
What do you mean by that gap?
Well, companies everywhere are panic buying OpenAI enterprise licenses, right?
Yeah.
But the executives have absolutely no playbook for how to deploy those agents to actually save time or generate revenue.
But explain the mechanism here. How does a regular marketing manager or, say, an HR director suddenly wire up a fleet of 250 agents? Are they suddenly having to write complex Python code?
No, not at all. And that's the genius of tools like VibeFlow. It's a highly visual drag-and-drop mechanism. The AI integrator doesn't need to write a single line of code.
Oh, interesting.
They just need to understand the business bottleneck. So they use SolveIQ to identify, say, a huge delay in processing vendor invoices. Then, using VibeFlow, they visually connect Agent A, which reads the inbox, to Agent B, which verifies the invoice against the database, to Agent C, which issues the payment.
Yep.
Yeah, the human basically becomes the connective tissue between the raw AI power and the company's specific business logic.
Okay, so you become sort of the puppet master inside a corporation.
Exactly.
But what if I don't want a boss anymore? What if I want to be entirely independent?
Then you walk through door number 3, the builder. This is for independent AI business creation.
Okay, let's unpack that one.
So EON provides a tool called the Venture Builder. This allows you to do zip code-driven local opportunity discovery.
Give me an example of what that looks like in practice.
Okay, let's say you use Venture Builder and discover that independent dental clinics in your specific zip code are losing thousands of dollars a month because of missed appointments and really poor follow-up.
Okay, classic small business problem.
Right. So you use VibeFlow to build an automated voice-based AI booking agent specifically tailored for dental offices. You run it with your fleet of 250 cloud agents, and then, and this is the kicker, you can list it on the EON Marketplace, which already reaches over 4,400 institutional buyers.
And who owns the final product? EON.
No, you do. The participant fully owns the shipped product.
Wow.
Yeah, it is essentially democratizing the startup studio model. Instead of needing millions in venture capital to hire a massive team of software engineers, you are the CEO of a team of 250 AI agents solving hyper-local problems and tapping into an existing distribution network.
But let me stop you there, because the sheer variance here is just wild. I mean, Door 1 is pulling liquid cooling fiber cables in a massive server farm, and Door 3 is acting like a Silicon Valley startup CEO discovering local market
Yeah, the
inefficiencies.
huge spread, yeah.
Those require two entirely different human operating systems. How can one single 90-day program effectively train someone for both?
Well, this raises an important question of a fundamental failure of traditional siloed education. Like, a university can't teach both plumbing and startup economics in the same semester.
No, definitely not.
But EON's answer lies in their history. The source materials point out that EON is not just some new startup riding the AI hype wave. They are actually a 25-year-old company specializing in immersive learning. They operate in over 80 countries and have over 136 million platform downloads.
Oh, so they've been building this underlying engine for decades.
Yes, they have spent decades building the infrastructure that allows for rapid, multidisciplinary pivoting. Because tools like VibeFlow and the Genesis simulators abstract all the technical complexity away, the human is free to focus on the outcome rather than the syntax of the problem.
That makes a lot of sense.
Plus, across all three doors, they provide a continuous AI mentor called Brainy 2.0.
Brainy 2.0. Yeah, the materials say it has a real face and voice. What does that actually mean for the user?
It basically means you have a mentor looking over your shoulder 24/7. It isn't just text on a screen. You can talk to it naturally while you are in the simulator or building a workflow, and it guides you through the process, providing immediate course correction.
Okay, so they have the infrastructure, but having a solid program is one thing, you know. Feeling pressured to buy it right this second is another. Eon is heavily leaning into the idea that the window of opportunity is slamming shut.
They definitely are.
And we hear act now or miss out in every tech pitch ever made. They claim the decisive window is the next 12 to 18 months. Their math is that the first 5% of workers to pivot land the best positions, and the next 50% just fight for scraps.
Yep, that's their claim.
Is this 18-month saturation timeline based on real pipeline dynamics, or is it just a manufactured FOMO tactic to sell a course?
Look, it is so easy to dismiss it as manufactured FOMO. But if we look at the underlying behavioral economics and the real-world pipeline dynamics, the timeline is highly plausible. The seats exist right now because the physical infrastructure, that $700 billion data center build-out, is being laid in the dirt right now. That is real concrete, real copper, and real fiber optic cable being bought today.
Right, the physical world moves on a schedule. And what about the corporate side? Why is that window closing?
Well, the materials point to corporate trade pipelines that have literally just opened. Meta has their Level Up program. BlackRock committed $100 million to trades. Lowe's committed $250 million. Mike Rowe put in $10 million. All of this capital is vintage 2026.
So the floodgates just open.
Exactly. At the same time, the AI integrator role inside corporations is only highly paid right now because it is rare and uncodified.
Meaning nobody has written the manual yet.
Exactly. Once the first wave of employees goes in, builds the agent fleets, and documents the standard operating procedures, the scarcity value of that skill just plummets. The premium is always paid to the pioneers who chart the territory, not the settlers who show up once the roads are paved.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, and EON's founder and chairman, Dan Lidgersgar, says, the question is no longer whether the future has arrived, it is which door you walk through before someone else takes your spot.
But if I'm a listener, I'm probably wondering why I can't just go to Coursera or somewhere else to learn this. How does Eon actually stack up against the competition?
The competitive landscape they map out in the materials is actually quite illuminating. Let's look at the alternatives. Meta and BlackRock are funding Door 1, the physical trades, but they are employer-owned. You are bound to them.
Right, you're locked in.
Exactly. Platforms like Coursera and Udemy, they offer partial coverage of Door 2 for, $40 to $500, but there are no verified credentials, no live agent deployment, and no path to ownership. It's just theory.
What about the really high-end consulting firms? Don't they do this?
Well, McKinsey Academy offers Door 2 training, but it's completely gated to their enterprise clients and costs upwards of $5,000. Meanwhile, if you want door 3, you could try Y Combinator or Antler, but that is equity financed. You have to give up a chunk of your company, and they have single-digit acceptance rates.
So EON is essentially positioning their program as the only comprehensive, ungated option. And they are targeting mid-career workers sensing layoffs, laid-off workers already replaced by agents, new grads finding their entry-level jobs fully automated.
And even governments, actually.
Governments.
Yeah, governments looking to reskill massive populations using $50,000 to $200,000 activation fees for massive cohort scale.
That's incredible. So that's the core of their pitch. It's a unified bundle for a highly fractured moment in economic history.
Exactly.
Which brings us right back to where we started. The middle of the white-collar world is disappearing. What EON's materials show us is a hyper-bifurcated market. On one side, you have highly specialized, well-paid physical trades building the heavy infrastructure of the AI age. On the other side, you have independent operators and integrators managing massive digital fleets of autonomous agents. The comfortable middle layer, the era of just pushing digital paper back and forth, is gone. And whether you decide to use EON's AI founder program or carve your own path entirely, the squeeze is a documented reality that you are going to have to navigate.
It really is, and it forces us to consider a much larger implication, actually. If the middle class of the knowledge economy entirely vanishes into either high-voltage physical trades or automated AI management, what happens to the social fabric of our workplaces?
That's a huge question.
Right. When there is no comfortable middle left to climb through, does the concept of a traditional career ladder cease to exist entirely?
Wow. That is exactly the kind of question that makes digging into these sources so necessary. Thank you so much for joining us and exploring this shift. For everyone listening, keep questioning the world around you. Keep looking for the underlying mechanisms driving the headlines. And remember, when you are standing in a room where the ceiling is dropping and the floor is rising, don't just stand there. Find a door.